ready.
I was born ready.
You were born ready.
I was born ready.
Hold on, let me get the live stream going.
That was right. Now I'm ready now. Is being prepared, that's different.
True that, man. True that. Let me get this part going on here, and we should be able to go soon. Get Ryan's info here. Okay. Okay. And here we go. 1 more second. All right, where you be? Oh, yeah. All righty. I know. Okay, we should be going live right now. And we are live streaming.
Good morning. Welcome to the community briefing. My name is Gregory Sneed, and we're glad you're joining us today. It is the 2nd of May in 2024. Our guest today is Ryan Wilson, and he's the CEO, co-founder of The Gathering Spot. And if you don't know what The Gathering Spot is, you're about to find out. So sit back and relax, and we're going to get some great information about what is happening with this network that is a great hub for collaboration and experiences. So again, my name is Gregory Sneed, and President and CEO of Lifesaver Financial Services, helping my clients to feel better about their money. And now my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage the queen of our community briefing, Ms. Crystal Mitchell.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome, guys. Glad to have you here. The community briefing is an inspiration that came about during the pandemic. We wanted to make sure everyone had accessibility to the resources that were going to be available during the pandemic. But we also recognize that it's very important that we are all connected, that we close our silos, and that we introduce and we know who the leaders and stakeholders are that are operating in our community, outside of our community, so that we can do a better job of collaborating and coalescing together. So that's the purpose of the community briefing, for bringing informed information to our communities and our small business owners. So thank you for joining us. This platform is powered by Recycling Black Dollars, of which I am the co-director of that organization, and the BBA, the Black Business Association, with Ms. Sarah Harris is the CEO and president of that one. Again, it's about coalescing together. We have a fantastic team here. Our platform is sponsored by the Los Angeles LDC, which is the Leadership Development Corporation, I believe, Southern California Edison, Wells Fargo Banks, PCR, and SoCal Gas. And I got a number of folks just chomping at the bit to support us, Stephen. So we got to get an invoice to them, which is awesome. We want to thank you guys, thank all of our regulars that are here, and our team, magical team, Mr. Greg Sneed, he just introduced himself, myself, Mr. Stephen Turner, who is the producer, and just all of this, bringing you guys, our guests, fabulous guests to the platform wouldn't be taking place if it wasn't for Stephen. And Ms. Robin Billups, today she is doing the Housing Forum platform, so coming back with more guests to talk about what's going on in the California housing market, which is a disaster. So thank you all for being here. With that, I'm going to kick it back over to Greg.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So our guest today is Ryan Wilson. I don't know if he has a middle initial. You got a Ryan, is it an E?
M, Michael.
M, Michael, okay there. Ryan Michael Wilson. And he is the co-founder and CEO of The Gathering Spot, which is a private membership network that serves as a hub for collaboration, connections, and experiences. And he started this at the age of 24 with a mission to create a world where opportunity is the byproduct of community and collaboration. And together with his business partner, they raised capital to open the first Gathering Spot in Atlanta. And the club has established itself nationally now as a home for creatives, business professionals, and entrepreneurs. And so he has led the club's expansion to openings in DC, of course, Los Angeles, and also launched in New York City, Detroit, Charlotte, Houston, and Chicago, as well as digital expansion on the company's platform, the DGS Connect. He is a graduate of Georgetown University, got his Bachelor's of Arts, and then went to Georgetown University Law, got his JD there. He is a native of Atlanta. They still call it Hotlanta
Yeah, that works.
every
I
now
know.
and then. ATL,
ATL.
Yeah. So he is a fabulous guy. We're lucky to have him here. So I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to bring him to the virtual stage. Please join me in welcoming Ryan Wilson.
I appreciate that introduction, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Okay, so can you walk us through the journey of creating Gathering Spot? What was the motivation? What led you to do it? And then I got some follow-up questions behind that, but how did it start? What was his origin?
So I'll give you the short version. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur growing up. My parents were entrepreneurs. My goal was to be an attorney. And so, as you mentioned, I went to Georgetown for undergrad, went to law school at Georgetown. And most of the time that I was in DC, I was community organizing. I was working on issues that were important to me. I came back home though between 1L and 2L, and that was the summer of 2013. The same summer that George Zimmerman was on trial for Trayvon Martin's murder. And I got an email as soon as he was acquitted, as we all remember. And the subject of the email said simply, "What are we going to do?" And I responded back to my friends saying we needed a physical place to have that conversation. And so that was July of 2013. A couple of days later, one of my college roommates, who is now my business partner, had a background in finance and accounting. I sent him the outline of the idea to build a physical place, again, where we could connect. And he helped me build a model. And so we weren't able to open until 2016, but all that TGS has ever strived to do has been connected to, again, connection, right? We have to have places like this, virtual and in person, where we're able to build with one another. And so with that very simple thesis, we set out to try to make the business reality. I decided not to practice law, declined my job offer after I graduated, and said that I was going to pursue entrepreneurship full time. So that first fundraise was a little over $3 million. We opened TGS when I was 24, going on 25, and the community really. The rest of the story is a story about what happens when community comes together. We opened with 128 members, and have been able to scale the business from that point.
So a quick sidestep. What was the family reaction when you spent all that time and money going to law school, and then you tell it's kind of like the equivalent of you get to a junior in college, and you tell your parents, I'm going to join the band, I'm going to be a movie star. So share a little
and
bit
their
about.
reaction is, boy, have you lost your damn mind.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't just them, right? I mean, I'm fortunate that they are entrepreneurs, so they understood why I was thinking in that way about my future. But I was one of those kids that if you would have asked me at age 5 or 15, I would have told you I wanted to be a lawyer. Like I knew, and it was a singular path for me. So this was a major disruption. I mean, I remember I left work one day. I was summering at this law firm in Atlanta, and I called my dad and I said, "Hey, look, I've got an idea that I can't shake. This is something that I'm really passionate about." And what I knew was that there was never going to be a better time in life to go pursue something that I was passionate about. So that time felt like it was a good one. One other person that is important to mention, my then girlfriend, now wife, separate conversation there as well, right? Because she believes that she's about to marry a lawyer, and here I come talking about I'm starting this thing. At that point, I really didn't even have the name for what the business was going to be called, but everybody around, and this is the thing that I'm grateful for. Everybody could see that I was passionate about it, and I'm not allergic to working, right? So they knew that I was going to put in everything that I could. When I graduated from Georgetown that year, Georgetown publishes a table of where everyone's going after law school, and it said unknown one. So this is a class of about 500 people, and I was the unknown person and was the president of the Black Law Students Association at the time. If anybody's familiar with that context, the president of BALSA always has a job. So here I am talking about basically being unemployed because we didn't end up making any money. I didn't draw a salary for TGS from that point. It would have been like another 3 years.
Wow.
And congratulations to the girlfriend and wife for sticking with you, because there's I was going to say something. Well,
I'll
I'm
say it
guessing.
for you. Unless she was an entrepreneur, she would have looked at you and said, "Dude, I'll catch you when you're making some money." But if she was an entrepreneur mindset, she would have stayed put.
So I was actually going to step in it even deeper. I was going to say, I'm guessing she wasn't from Los Angeles, but
No, I'm having that conversation with a New Yorker, so it was,
Okay.
I'm deeply appreciative of her support. I mean, this is it. Why I'm sharing this, y'all, is that so many times when we're talking about business owners, we talk about the person that we know that occupies a specific seat. So I am the co-founder and the CEO of this business, but there are so many people that have had to be supportive financially, yes, but just well wishes, right, that have made it possible. And it's important every time that I can to acknowledge all of those folks, because had they not been, I don't know if we're having this version of the conversation.
so many of huge success of companies or things, people are often faced with the, boy, are you crazy? What are you thinking? And it takes courage. So that's a testimony to the level of courage that was needed to make that choice. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy choice. Um, so how did walk us through the fundraising? Getting the money together. What was that like? What were some of the steps there?
So we've had several different rounds over the years. The first round ended up being a $3 million round. It did not start that way. It started as $1 million round, and I got some really important advice from two places actually. So the first place was actually on, I guess, what used to be called Twitter. Someone asked Jay-Z, "What's the best piece of entrepreneurial advice that you have?" And he said, "Don't listen to anyone. Everyone's scared." And I remember reading that tweet, being scared, and it being a moment of realization that, like, if I was going to pursue this thing, that we were going to have to figure out how to overcome the early funding obstacles. The other conversation was a lot closer to home. I was talking to my dad, and I told him, "Look, I mean, we keep meeting with these designers, and every folks here will know, as you think about how to make the business a reality, you learn about new expenses that are going to come along the way." Well, those new expenses were adding up, and they were hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time, right? So what was $1 million fundraise quickly became two, quickly became three. The advice that he gave me that really changed the trajectory of this business, he said to me in a conversation, "Son, small ideas will keep you small. You have to fight for the best possible version of this idea." Basically saying all of the people that are telling you to take a small bite at the apple or do a prototype, you could do that, right? But if you understand that this thing is going to require $3 million plus, then we've got to be fighting to try to protect that version of the idea, because the $1 million version probably won't get us where we want to go. And I just kept talking, right? I mean, it was 97 straight no's. I counted. You'll see throughout this conversation, I'm deeply competitive. I needed to know just exactly how many of these we would face, but it was 97 straight no's before the first person said yes. And the thing that I learned in that process was that no actually started to become something not only that I was comfortable with, but it was giving me confidence that I was seeing something in the market that people couldn't see. And so I actually was using the nose as, like, this is a good indicator that we see a gap that other people can't see. Now you take that principle too far, and you may be way too far afield, but our perspective was, folks can't see this, and because they can't see it, if we do it right, we've got an opportunity to be one of the first movers in the space.
Had somebody else attempted it and failed at it, or that was used as a model, like what not to do, or were you just kind of you going down the path on your own, or?
So I don't want to give you a lawyer answer. This is a yes and no, right? Because yes, other folks have built private clubs have been around for hundreds of years, right? So the fundamentals of the private club, country club business, I didn't invent that. The way that we are presenting this experience, who we're doing it for, Black folks, that had not been done in the way that we were approaching doing it. Now, I want to be very clear too. There have been throughout history Black focused private membership club. So I didn't create that either, but we knew that the idea of bringing creatives and folks that are working for big businesses and those that are in nonprofits and just civic life overall all together under the same roof, that was going to be different. Right now, our youngest member is 21, our oldest member is 92, right? So we knew that that approach was going to be something that hadn't been seen before. But the model, event space, restaurant and bar, and workspace from a pure real estate perspective, we didn't create that. But we knew that we could present it differently. And that was where the no's were coming, right? Folks would hear that and say, man, I've heard no in every different version you can take it. I mean, I had someone tell me that we were trying to build the Walmart shopping center, super center for private clubs because they couldn't imagine that people would dine in the same place, that they would go to events at the same place they would work, and they would want to attend to programs there, and like they couldn't imagine that. So like, I mean, the no's became a part of the process. I've still taken them. I've taken a couple of them this week, right? I mean, it's a part of what the game brings, which I came to accept. I didn't start that way. I was very sad about some of the early ones, but refined my pitch. I knew that at a certain point, the pitch just wasn't strong enough. And part of what I wasn't good at early was just talking about how an investor was going to make money. I would talk about all the things that I was passionate about and why it was going to be so cool. And once I started to be able to tap in fully to, wait, well, while they may care about all of that, at the end of the day, this person is making an investment decision. And am I presenting a case for where they're going to get a return? And we got better, right? I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing, but we started to figure out how to speak a different language and eventually close that round. And then again, our total capital in the first iteration of the business was about $20 million.
We're going to tap into the money piece of it in a moment, but I'd like to hear from your words. What is the gathering spot? And then maybe more importantly, what is it not?
I appreciate the second part of the question. The gathering spot by category, we're in the community business, and there's two ways to understand what we do. First way is that we build physical spaces. So event space, restaurant, bar, workspace. We posted every type of event that you can imagine, from the president of the United States to the biggest companies in the world to small and emerging companies in pitch competitions. We posted everything. We operate a full restaurant and bar, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. And then we have workspace. So event where there's tables, private offices, a bunch of different work environments for people to be able to get things done. That's the first way to understand the business. Second way, and honestly, the thing that I wake up every day trying to figure out how to do better is we are all about trying to figure out how to connect folks. So again, youngest member is 21, oldest is 92. My job is to try to connect the dots between people that ordinarily wouldn't have met and to do it in a context that celebrates, very important distinction, that celebrates Black folks, where we are very used to being tolerated in spaces. The goal at the gathering spot is that we are celebrated at every single touch point that we have. And to do that, though, especially during these times, we have got to be intentional about meeting and knowing one another. It's not enough to see things from afar and give well wishes from a distance. We are in a moment in time where we have to be building meaningful relationships with one another if we plan to not only survive, but my goal, and I think why folks are here, is to talk about how we can go on to thrive. So that's what TGS really is to me. We're in the people business. I'm trying to figure out how to aggregate where there are resources, where there's talent, bring that all into the same room, and then figure out what we're going to do with it.
And then the second piece, what is it not?
What is not is a co-working space. It's not a venue. It's not a restaurant. Like we do those things. I look at them all as tools to facilitate that second thing that I was talking about. So we have restaurant space because people connect while they're eating. We have event space because connections are formed in different experiences that are built. We have workspace with people connect while they're trying to get some work done, right? But I'm not in any of those lines of business with respect to people that are. That isn't what our work has ever been a part. I will also say this: what we are not is a stuffy country club. What we are not is ever been designed to be excluding anyone, because I don't believe, again, if you're talking about getting things done, that's not helpful to that project. So while by category we are considered a private membership club, if you look at the activity of the business on a day-to-day basis, we're not doing most of the things that private clubs do. Our doors are open to the community on a consistent basis, engaging the topics of the day with the people of the day. Yes, members, but also everybody else, right? So I look at TGS as a community asset that needs to be leveraged in order to be able to make sure that we're talking about the stuff that we need to be.
Quick
That's pretty.
trivia question, and Crystal, I'll kick it over to you. Uh, has the 21-year-old, or the 21-year-old and the 92-year-old, are they at the same location, and have they met?
So there's actually two 21 years old. There's one in DC and one in Atlanta, and the 92-year-old is Ambassador Andrew Young. So I don't believe he's met either one of them, but he's in Atlanta.
Awesome. Um, First of all, kudos to you, because in this space in California, networking has always been kind of a albatross here. I when I first started, probably not too much older than you are, maybe just a few years, I started a networking event here, but it's always been difficult. There's been a number of networking organizations that are come in to drive people together to connect. Recycling Black Dollars, that's pretty much what we have been. That's what we are, making sure that we all come together so that we can keep our dollars in our community. But it's sometimes a notion. So I give you that. If you guys got a following here, I know Atlanta's cool, New York is cool, Chicago, they get it. Los Angeles is a different animal. Did you find that when you started to branch out here?
I did. I mean, I think every city is has a unique flavor to it. I had a little bit of an advantage. I was born in LA, and I still have a lot of family 95th Street in Inglewood. So like I'm not unfamiliar with the town. Don't tell folks here in Atlanta this, but like lifelong Lakers fan, and like was consistently in the city growing up. Um, so I knew I had a good sense of the culture of the city being and how it was different than Atlanta. Now, on a fundamental level, we're all trying to figure out how to better connect with one another. So I think that's the through line to any city that we're in. But no, LA definitely connects differently. But that wasn't intimidating to me. I mean, if we created experiences and we're talking about the things that were important to folks in LA, then I knew that we had a shot.
Okay. Okay. Um, how do you what are the benefits to the members for the TGS,
So
and
you get
how does
access to the physical club. So that's to come and dine, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You get access to come and work, as I've described before. And then the thing that we do on an ongoing basis is host programs and events. We're doing somewhere between on a low end 10 most months, closer to 20 different experiences that you're invited to at the club, where we're bringing in thought leaders. We're doing different workshops about what's going on with us personally and professionally. We have social events. You really will see we touch a lot of different things over the course of a month, and our calendars don't repeat. But you're getting access to those programs, which to me is really access to an amazing network of people that are in and out of the club on a regular basis. Again, the thing that drives my work every single day is, can I get people to meet with one another? And we're going towards our ninth year of business overall. Only a couple years in LA, but I've seen business partnerships form. I've seen investors find businesses that they were able to invest in. We've got folks that are getting married and have had children that were connected through TGS. So like I've been able to see the full range of what happens when we have a context to connect with one another, and that is what you're getting access to on an ongoing basis. So it's it's not a you walk in one day and leave with it all, but consistent engagement in this ecosystem again, whether it's professional interest or personal, I have found over time that there are a lot of powerful things that have come out of that sort of engagement.
That's pretty awesome. Collectively, how many members do you guys have that you've collected over the 9 years you've been in business?
So there's about 15,000 across the country.
Very
Oh.
impressive. That's really, really cool. Um, I like the fact that you actually created a business model, because most networking groups don't do that. It's a sideline thing that they do to bring people together, but to actually create a business out of it, that's very impressive, because I think that's been the downfall of a lot of organizations that are networking, is that unless it's a nonprofit and they're generating revenue from grants from their sponsors, that's usually not the case. So I assume that's the lawyer in you.
I building sustainable models, right? And that to me is important for a couple of reasons, but it allows you to go and talk about and say what you want to say, right? I knew from the beginning that if we were going to have a shot, that we were going to have to figure out a way. That's why, I mean, TK, he's we're also not having this conversation without his impact and influence in the business, but I knew early on that we had to have a way to survive that was sustainable, right? And um, that model had to have scale as a part of it. Going back to the conversations with investors that I was really bad at, what I didn't do well in most of those conversations early on was I couldn't point them to where there was growth, and if there wasn't going to be growth, then there wasn't really a reason to invest. So I knew that we had to have that very, very tightly understood, right? And that was going to be the thing that gave the business a shot.
So you have, if my math is correct, you have 7 locations. Is that correct?
So we have 8 cities where there are members and 3 physical sites. So Atlanta, DC, LA are the physical locations. One thing that we started to do during the pandemic was uh, community building can be done in a lot of different forms, right? It can be done online like this, or it can be done in other locations. So our thesis was, well, we've been doing this at that point for 5 or 6 years. Can we start to build community in a different way in cities where we don't have a physical location? In short, the answer to that question has been yes. So New York, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Charlotte, there are members, and I'm on the path to building them space in all of those cities. So Houston is the next city that we're going to be under construction. Um, but the goal is that we will have a network of clubs, no matter where you are, that you'll be able to go to. So, but Atlanta, DC, LA is where they're operational at the moment. So each club for just a each club is about 25,000 square feet. So they're decently sized.
And what's is there a target number of locations? You know, at some point in time, um, you can grow too large where it becomes difficult to manage, or it becomes what's the word I'm looking for. I was thinking liquidated, diminished, or I can't come up with the right term right
Yeah,
now.
I know. Yeah, I mean, scale can kill you. Um, I'll tell you, in this season of the business, I'm not pursuing scale just for the sake of it. I never have been. It's never been about just grow, grow, grow. I think part of that narrative is what has been unhelpful to us as a community. But if there was a good opportunity that we could take advantage of, from a real estate perspective, we haven't been shy about trying to take on that opportunity. So you're balancing, right, between being aggressive and trying to make sure that you don't do anything that's too fast, that puts you in a tough spot.
Would you stay within the confines of the United States, or
Now stay tuned. I'm working on some stuff.
I got a grin out.
No, no. I mean,
Breaking news.
I can't break any news right now, but I'll say that the diaspora is becoming more and more connected every single day, and if same formula, if there was an opportunity, and I'll say too, like from a growth standpoint, my approach there is we're not coming to any of these cities. The idea is that we join the community. There's already people in all of the cities that are doing amazing things, that have their own culture. Like I'm not trying to come to a city but do we have an opportunity to join a community and build and grow alongside them has been more of the approach. So we will announce our interest in a city years before we actually build, and then we spend that time, yes, looking for real estate, but also building relationships. So each one of the clubs, the outside of Atlanta, DC, and LA, opened with north of 1,000 members on the day that we opened, right? Because we've been in town talking to and building relationships for years by the time they got there. So yeah, I mean, internationally, if we had the right partner and the community was interested in us being a part of it, then sure. But if not, we're not going to big business plant our flag somewhere just for the sake of it.
Yeah, ideally someplace with blue waters and white sandy beaches,
I'm not mad at it if they'll have us, but
and the Virgin Islands are still part of the United States, so it wouldn't be so international.
my business partner is from St. Croix, so
Oh, see,
Yeah.
so there's
A nice little retreat there. That'd be cool.
there'll be
yeah,
nothing that
yeah.
would make him more happy than
I've
than a
been to
Virgin
Willemstad
Island.
and Frederiksted and St. Croix, so that would be great. Um, does membership in one location grant? So is it membership city specific, or does it extend to every city, or how does that work?
You have access to the whole network. So anywhere that you travel, you have access to those clubs wherever you are. So it's one membership. That was one of the things that I wanted to do. There's only two membership tiers. You can either, I don't want to make this too overly complicated. Most folks are paying $200 a month to be a member of the club. If you're under 30, it's $100 a month. And we don't have all of these tiers. One of the things that I found when we were doing research for the pricing structure is that you had clubs that were, I mean, astronomical fees, 10,000 to join and 10,000 annually. So like we wanted to bring that into a range where we had a business that was there that was sustainable. We could provide a strong offering, but one that was at a price point that folk, like real people, could participate. And second thing in that though was that there were so many complicated structures out there, right? And I'm starting this when I'm in my mid 20s, so I would go to on a lot of these tours, and they would say, "Do you want the young executive membership, or do you want the membership after five?" So we don't have all of that. It's one membership. Like we can't. It's not complicated on purpose. Everyone that you'll see in any of our clubs is just a member of the club, and that was important to us to not have all of these tiers, right? Because there's learning that can happen in every direction, right? But we've got to be on equal footing to be able to have that conversation. So we don't have all a very complicated structure that way because frankly, I just don't believe in it.
Crystal, back over to you. There were some questions
Yes.
on the fundraising and also the merger.
Joseph has a question. Does TGS own or lease their spaces?
We've leased most of the spaces that we're in. Whole long conversation there, but we've leased most of it.
Okay. Stephen has a question. Can you share your relationship with CIM as well as how valuable as a mentorship has the mentorship been? For example, your dad, Andrew Young, an example.
Mentorship has been I'll work backwards. So mentorship has been huge for me, but I don't look at it in the way that I think normally is talked about. I'm learning from everyone all the time, right? We were still living in DC, and folks would ask me where was I getting most of the real estate information. I would tell them the truth, which is I was getting it from being in a taxi talking to folks that knew the town better than anybody, right? So you've got to be a student of trying to absorb information from every source, realizing that everybody has something that they can lend you that would be helpful. I do have a lot of folks that folks know that I'm able to call, which I appreciate, and I lean on those folks. But oftentimes, most of my focus is on people who are building right now, who are in the game right now. I learn
Right
more
now.
from those conversations than I do with respect to in other kind of contexts. My relationship with CIM, CIM is the owns the building that we're in LA, and they've been a good partner to us in the sense that look, y'all, when I started this journey, there wasn't a long door of people that were interested. When I hinted a second ago, we leased the spaces. Um, while I would love to own the assets that we're in, we couldn't get a lease done in Atlanta when we started. I mean, it was incredible, right? That we just, even when the capital was secured, we could not get a lease done. So
Mm,
CIN has been a good partner to us in that they understand our business. They're working to try to make sure that the business is successful, which is simple statement, one that if you're looking for space, you should not take lightly. Not every landlord is actually interested in the business having any type of success. I can say with the work in LA, the CM has been deeply interested in us being successful, and in turn, we try to be a good partner as well.
I grew up in the area where TGS is right now, and so the first time I came there was with the Los Angeles Urban League. We did a pitch competition. I was the moderator, and I didn't know where you were. I knew you were in LA, but I didn't know where you were. And I came up like, whoa, wait, this is my neighborhood. It's like
Yeah.
it's completely changed. And so good job.
Yeah, no, that we are where we are on purpose in LA and everywhere, right? This was we could be on Main and Main and deep in Beverly Hills and or West Hollywood, right? That wasn't this was our third location. We could have prioritized that, but um going back to where I started, where this thing is about us as a community, I wanted to be where we historically have been. Now, look, there's a broader conversation that we have to have in all of these cities about us being able to remain in our own neighborhoods. But to me, the best way that we could help that conversation is to plant ourselves there as well, and then have the conversation. But having that conversation from West Hollywood didn't make any sense. So um, while I'm excited about the development that's happening on Adams, that's where we are in LA.
Mhm.
That's I'm also deeply interested, the same way I am on the west side of Atlanta, that Black folks that have been in the neighborhood can stay in the neighborhood. And we've got to have a very intentional discussion about what that looks like, because we all know that the economics are not in our favor at this point.
Exactly. And it's so important. I mean, we all of us are, you like preaching to the choir. That's why we're here at the community briefing, because we all believe that we have to start working together, closing our silos so that we can have a bigger voice. The BBA Sarah's on. Those are conversations we are actively having, creating coalitions that all of our nonprofits, all our CBOs are actually working together, going after funds and grants that can be collective, a bulk, a block grant or something, so that we can get more stuff done to support the community. So I love to see it coming from young people, because this world is about you guys now. We literally could coast through right now, but it's not about us. It's about you guys and having that place, and making it like us. I mean, Joseph and Greg and I and Stephen, we were like you, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And LA was a different place at that time. We had
Yeah.
places and networks and places to go and everybody looked like us. That's how we formed our relationships and friendships, is because that's where that started. But for you guys, those places don't exist. They haven't existed for the last 25 years in Los Angeles. And so it's so important that, yeah, you got the 92-year-old, but it's really important from that 21 to 45 to have a connection of people that you can work together with to build a better place for their children, for you guys as children.
I appreciate you. No, our average age of our membership, I gave you the full range, but the average age of the membership is right at like 37. So
Yeah,
our
that's
sweet spot is trying to make sure that folks 20 through their 20s, 30s, 40s. I need everybody to be a part of it, right? I think some of the mistakes that we make is that we think
you
that
need the elders. You need us.
it doesn't work unless we're talking to each other about
Right.
what has happened over time. We can't lose that knowledge in the community, and so we have to be specific about making sure that everybody's there, and we've got to cater to the interests of everyone, which is what makes our work hard, but it's important that we do it.
Yeah, so very important. Your marketing and promotion obviously very, very important in driving business and maintaining your business model. I periodically see, is it seasonal? But I periodically I see a major influx of ads and so forth on social media. And then there's kind of quiet periods of time. Then I see another influx. So is there a membership drive period? Is that what happens?
Uh,
Or is
there
it word
are
of mouth?
moments. Yeah. So forgive this reference. Is how I've always looked at it, though. We're like uh, we're like an artist almost, right? And we get into moments where we have things that we really want to talk about and share, and that'd be the equivalent of our album. So what you see in those moments are us talking about whatever that season is. We are in a very specific season right now. I think that if I look at just over what's over the last couple of years, right? This has been an amazing switch in a 24-month period that we've got to be specific about, right? And everyone is experiencing in one way or another. But if just think about 2 years ago, interest rates are low, inflation is a lot lower, affordability bad, but not as bad as it is right now. There's an emphasis on Black-owned business, and we can argue about if it was sincere or not. I had concerns that I was writing about then, but there was energy and discussion in that space. There's some sort of commitment to DEI. We could fight about whether or not it was sincere. Again, concerns there, but like all of those things that you could argue that 2 years ago were tailwinds are now complete headwinds for us. And it's happened under incredibly tight timelines. And so that season, or this moment, right, we've got to respond to with some urgency, because from a small business perspective, I think we're starting to see the results of all of that economic and frankly like social energy that is being put in our direction. And if we don't, one, identify it, but then two, go try to figure out what we're going to do about it, we are being set back from my seat significantly. And it wasn't as if we were at parity when this all began anyway. So this is a very, very specific moment that like we cannot allow to just pass us by passively, because we can't afford it. I mean, is the shorter way for me to say that we just
You are
absolutely cannot
absolutely
afford it.
right. When there's a crisis, then of course we're in the spotlight. We're the flavor of the month. And then when the crisis has died down in their mind, then died down for us, then we're no longer, which is what has happened with the DEI and the critical race
Yeah.
theory and all that crap right there. Right. And
But we we
so,
we we've got to punch back through a
right.
variety of verticals, like aggressively, right? I mean, this cannot be experienced as just pendulum swings back. Like we fought for and have had significant gains, not perfect, right? I mean, I've spent most of my time at TGS talking about things not being affordable, talking about the fact that our businesses couldn't get access to capital, right? But the 2018 version of can't get access to capital and the 2024 version of that same conversation are radically different, and it was bad in 2018. So we cannot meet this moment with oh an oh yeah, or oh shucks, like oh it's happened. Like, this is a very, very specific moment that requires urgency and action. I mean, we're watching things like the Minority Business Development Agency lawsuit comes, judge rules, they've got to be open to everyone, and you see us as a community in the aggregate largely silent. Not much being said about that, and not much being said about a number of different very intentional efforts that are impacting us, right? I mean, look at what's going on in colleges and universities. Deeply impactful the way that litigation has impacted the results of our kids getting into schools, and we're sitting here, I don't know. So
Right.
uh,
We've become apathetic again. And so from the nonprofit side, I'm gonna tell you what happened with the DEI and equity thing. Soon as that was crushed, all of our CBOs are having major problems getting sponsorship. Everybody pulled back because
and but see, what's not happening from there that has to happen is that that has to be identified. If you were 24 months ago deeply committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of a sudden 24 months later, you are not. The community needs to know exactly who you are, and we need to make some decisions about what participation looks like going forward. If we do not engage that way, folks will do what they're doing right now is sunset these programs and efforts and well wishes, move on to something else and expect us to be okay with it. Right? We have to, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but we're going to have to point at some logos and some people and say, unfortunately, I do not agree with your decision to stop funding this effort or that effort. It's going to have a deep impact on the organizations that are doing this work every single day. And unfortunately, I will not be able to continue engagement with you. I cannot promote whatever industry that it is that we're talking about, continued engagement in this space. And this sounds very simple, but that is not happening at scale. It is not happening. We are largely silent in a moment that requires a lot different engagement than what we're doing right now. And that's the family business. That is our conversation that has to happen. And it is not happening. I mean, we just are,
I
oh, the
complete.
sponsorships are just a little bit less this year.
Yeah, and then you just
Hope it
roll
comes
back your
back.
programs, right? You roll back
And
your
it
programs, and you can't do that. Or I've even been sitting in some meetings where, okay, let's come at it differently. Let's take the minority question out of it. Let's take black out of it,
no,
and come
no.
at it and be let's be black beige, and
No,
let's
this
see
is a
if that
moment that
works.
requires courage. It requires you to
Yes,
maybe put some like they're like we cannot agree that because one case and like this is deeply orchestrated because there was one case that yes could compromise our program. I have partners where we've had to look each other in the face and say, "Hey, are we continuing to do this?" And if the answer is no, because of concerns about like we've got to go and not run away but go full force into because the things that we're talking about in terms of why these programs were created in the first place, which that has been totally lost, still exist. They still are
exactly.
exist and are real problems. 96% of our businesses don't employ a single person right
Yes,
now. The income,
exactly.
the income inequality. Like we'd be here all day, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but like the stats are not moving since, especially COVID, in the right direction at all. So the idea that there's no need for the efforts that we were talking about 24 months ago to continue is outrageous, and it's outrageous that we will continue to engage with you. And one of my favorite quotes is, "Do you really want to win or look good losing?" And what we're seeing is that a lot of the organizations that were talking all of that talk a couple years ago, they were not committed to winning. They were committed to looking good losing. And we have to call that what it is right now.
Exactly. And it requires all our voices. And that's why we have to close our silos. That is why we have to come one big voice, with the passion and the passion and enthusiasm that you have. And we must join forces with the younger generation, because those of us that have been fighting this for forever and ever, we need that new energy. We need that push, because you guys got, we got a little bit more to lose in some cases. And sometimes we're like, oh, we're comfortable. So we're good, right? We can ride this out, but we can't. We all have to come together. There's a question here, asking you about the Greenwood merger.
Sure.
What exactly is the Greenwood merger?
So we were acquired in 22 by FinTech Greenwood. The thesis there is that we would work together. We would do our work at TGS and that we would be able to introduce and have access to financial products and services. The reason why that was important to me is just what I was talking about, right? I was frustrated about watching bankers continuously be in our clubs and no one actually get a deal done ever. Couldn't point to anybody that had anything happen, right? So if there was an opportunity for us to work in a context of a fintech that could provide some access to those same uh, programs or efforts, we thought it was a good opportunity for us to continue to scale and to work with one another. Pretty publicly, that didn't work out. And so I reacquired the business late 23. I've been back in this capacity, owning the gathering spot since December of 23. So it's been 100. I stopped counting the days. I don't know, maybe 115 days or so. that we've been back at it. But it was an opportunity that we took in mid 22, and when we saw that it wasn't the best go forward for what we wanted to do at TGS, we bought the business back.
Awesome, awesome. So here's our, and I know Stephen is getting ready to ask this question. So how can we all work together? Is that the question, Stephen? How can we help the gatherings by how can we help consolidate this conversation, carrying it on, but not just to have the conversation, to actually create some action items that we can move our needs, and they're not even agendas, they're our needs. You know, majority of the housing, the homeless people are us, right? That you look at the percentage of that's us, and we only represent 13% of the population, but we get hit the hardest from the whole entire countryside of all the people that live in the United States. So how do we, from your standpoint, all come together? We have our ideas, but how do we come together to really move this conversation to some actionable items, to some legislation, because that's what makes change, right? And advocacy has to be on a bigger scale.
I'll start where you ended, and we're another thing that we do at TGS that I'm proud of is that we're deeply politically engaged. That's locally all the way up. So you will have seen since we reacquired the company, the vice president and the president of the United States visit TGS, and not for photo ops, but because they know that we talk about this stuff on an ongoing basis, and we talk about it with sincerity, right? So we talk. I have a very strong privilege in the work that I do, that our work is funded by Black folks, meaning that that's the only constituency that I wake up every day trying to make sure is happy with about what my work each day, and that's a privilege, right? A lot of our organizations cannot say that because they're not funded in the same way, and that's a different discussion. But we are funded that way, thank the Lord, and so we talk to them and everyone about how we feel about this stuff, the way that we feel about it. The best way to engage with us, I would love for folks to consider becoming a member of the club. If you have an event that we can host, we'd love to host the event. Outside of that, though, if you have something that is going on that we could help to amplify, thank you, Michael, for put this in the chat. We're highlighting the Olympics. We've got to take things that people know like that, like the Olympics or like the World Cup, and we have to be very specific about where there are opportunities in our community. But I need that sort of information continuously brought to our door, because I don't see it all. Our team doesn't see it all, but we are very serious about when we do learn about something, how can we make sure that everybody, member and non, knows about what's going on. So there's a lot of different ways to engage with us, but it's fairly traditional around here in the sense that we are trying to just connect good people to good people within the community. I've never tried to make it that complicated, but stuff like the Olympics, that's an economic event that I can say with pretty strong certainty that we're not currently on schedule to participate in the way that everybody else is. And that doesn't make any sense, because as far as I'm concerned, we live here too. We're in the city as well. We're actually helping to make the city attractive to the rest of the world that wants to come and visit with us. So we can't let World Cups and Olympics fly into our towns and think it's acceptable to just get whatever's left at the end of that process. And we've got to be talking about that right now.
You're exactly right. They embrace our culture. They love our culture. They love our music. They love our swag, but they don't embrace us. We're behind all of that.
Well, and I know we're short on time, but one thing that we've got to do, which is part of the work I take seriously at TGS, is that we have to set the agenda and the table and the setup and the expectations so that they understand what has to be delivered, right? There are a lot of politicians that are out here, and we say, well, you only come to us when you want to vote. But what is concerning to me about that conversation is that you should be coming back to the table to talk about the thing that we discussed a couple of years ago and where you are with those things. Those conversations aren't happening in that way. We're talking about the vote itself, right? But it's not we'll get to the voting piece of this. We've got to be sending people into office with a mandate the way that other communities do. And politicians don't like old people. Politicians like old people because they demand things of them, and consequently they will hold them accountable, right?
Exactly.
We don't have that same sort of energy locally or nationally consistently, where folks understand that if they do not deliver on the things that we specifically asked for, that there are consequences to that decision, because inaction is a decision. So, I mean, we're at a spot where I take seriously their responsibility to us, but I want them to understand directly what our expectations are and when they need to be delivered. Because if they don't, what real substantive discussion are we having right now? It's all about woulda, coulda, shouldas that will happen in the future. That I don't think is the most helpful way for us to
No, we
engage.
have to be as you said, intentional. Stephen, there's a couple questions. Stephen, did you want to jump in, or because you had your hand up? You on mute.
Just quickly, I want to thank Michael Banner, who's one of the founding members of the LA, the Gathering Spot, and others that are on the line. And here in Los Angeles, we want to flex our muscle. We have resources, even though we're not like Atlanta, where Atlanta may be 46% of African descent. In LA, on a good day, we might be 8%. So we have Miss Glover, we got people like Sarah Harris, president of the BBA, Recycling Bank Dollars. I just want to I call that we will be showing more support for the Gathering Spot, and we'd like to have your ear in that regard. Turn it back over to you, Crystal.
Thank everybody that's here, a part of the Gathering Spot. That I've known for this for a long time. This is not a me thing. I have a job here that I take seriously, but it has been a we thing for a long time. This thing does not happen without y'all engaging with it the way that you do, spending time and treasure with TGS. And every time I can talk about it, I appreciate y'all. But Mayor Bass was at TGS during that election cycle with the beginning of this conversation. We've got to continue to make sure that we stay engaged so that she and the administration understands what we want to see locally happen in LA.
Exactly. And as I said in the beginning, that the community briefing, that was all of that you just said. That was the inspiration behind this. I've been working in this community for 35 years, pushing and forcing. My focus is always on our young people and what that looks like. So I do a lot of workshops and training and teaching kids how to be entrepreneurs. But I also work with with 4 of the organizations teaching our small businesses to be better businesses so that they can scale and be successful businesses, so they can then bring those dollars back to the community. It's always about that, right? So however we can help, this platform is here for you. We actually will we do our weekly, but we do on a quarter, we do a breakout conversation that's longer and streamed live from some other location and streamed on hybrid, so to speak, because we want to be that voice so that people know what's happening in our community, so we can get out of the darkness and start having these individual conversations. And most importantly, do what you just said. We need to spark a fire under the apathy of us. I was at a housing summit this morning, and it was supposed to be a full house, sold out, half the seats were empty. Talking about housing and solutions to housing. It should have been empty, and it was free. So these are the conversations we have to be really active in. It includes all of us, not just those of us working in CBOs, because that's our mission. No, if you're Black, you're from the diaspora, we need to be working together. We're going to have to close out. But do you know Dr. George Fraser?
Do I? Yes.
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 Have you met Dr. George? Have you been to the Power Network conferences?
I've not been to the Power Network conference, but I'm familiar with it.
You need to go, because you and he are on the same page, and he would wrap you up, because he's looking for someone to carry on, and he's been doing that for over 30. I think I've known him about 35 years. He is
I'm
powerful.
familiar with his work, but no, I haven't been. But
yeah, and his conference is powerful. I think the next one's in Charlotte coming up, but he does it every year. And then they're also connecting with the diaspora. But Ryan, you have been a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for joining us. We encourage everyone to become a member of the Gathering Spot, and let's see how we can do some stuff together. And as I said, there's a number of us in the community that's looking at creating a coalition to close down our organizational struggles and quiet silos, and seeing if we can be there with using our elderly knowledge and wisdom and moving that over to you guys, but making introductions and doing what we need to do. Thank you, Chanel. She says we must follow up and get more involved at every level based on my experience in government and industry. There's a power network of people here on this platform that we all have some amazing skills and talents, and we should be utilizing them to uplift our people and become a nuisance as the squeaky wheel gets the things done, right? That's why certain organizations, certain ethnicities, they get crap done because they are loud and boisterous. Greg, I want to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much. Stephen, who's going to be here next week?
Next week, first of all, Ryan, if he left us, thank you.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Next week, we have Michelle Gottlieb talk about mental health and emotional intelligence.
Okay, and this is May is Mental Health Month, besides being my birthday month. But we need to take care of self-care, and we need to take care of ourselves, because it can be tough to be Black sometimes. Boy, your mental status sometimes is compromised on a regular. So thank you guys. And just come back next week. Anything else, Stephen? Greg?
Yeah, Ryan, just as a closeout, anybody with TGS that you want to give them a shout out and, thank them for all that they do?
You're going to get me in trouble, Greg. I'm going to thank everybody. I
everybody,
appreciate
right?
everybody that's been a part, visited, a member, been supportive, any engagement, y'all. I wouldn't be back having this conversation but for the community. The reason we were able to come back to the business was because the community made it possible. So everyone, big and small, I appreciate your engagement with us. We were two folks with an idea that has been.
Well, I have a shout out. I gotta have a shout out to your dad. Talk about somebody that's proud. I mean, his chest could be no bigger when he talks about you and mentorship. And also Michael Banner for suggesting that we bring you on. But that's what I miss about mentorship. Greg knows this better than I. Having a male figure in your life, that guiding light.
Absolutely. No,
thank you, Sarah. You want to have any input there? Sarah.
Sorry, my thing. Hi, Ryan. Great to have you on, Sarah, with the Black Business Association. I had some questions about the community and connections within the community, but you pretty much answered them. But just great job with all that you've done.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate y'all having me today.
Oh, we love having you. Come back anytime. I see some faces. Kelly, I think it's with you, with TGS. Michael, welcome, guys. Don't let this be your last time. I know y'all came because of Ryan, but you can keep coming back. And we're always looking for those to contribute on the platform with information. This is what this platform is about, keeping us informed, letting us know who's doing what so that we can support each other as a community, Black folk community, and making sure we all are aware of who we are. Michael, thank you. Michael did an excellent ULI last week. Week before was phenomenal, Michael. Great job. Thank you. Great conversation we had. Some great pictures have come out of that. So thank you, Chanel. Thank you for joining us. Roz, I hope all is well. You got your car, you're driving again. And glad to have you all. We will see you next week for our guest next week. And the week after that, we have a young lady that owns her own winery. So you want to come back to meet her. We have a great lineup for the month of May. So please come back. I am also looking for guys. I will be starting my passion product June 10th with kids. Our goal is to service 80 kids this summer. So in June and July, we will be kicking off Biz Camp for the summer. Kids are 13 to 18. If you guys have any kids that have aspirations, this is a free program. In fact, we pay the kids, but they actually compete. And we're also looking for professionals that want to come out and talk to the kids, whether they have a topic they want to talk about, they want to coach the kids when we get to pitch week, and they need eyeballs on their pitch deck. And then we're also looking for judges. So if any of you are interested in that, please let me know. The kids are phenomenal. We've been interviewing. Oh my God, these kids are absolutely amazing. I think we've already accepted 15 in the program, and every one of them have been just incredible young people. So you definitely want to join up with me. This is what makes me happy every year. I work hard, but I work harder for them. So thank you guys, and we shall see you all next week. Who is the winemaker? Stephen Lee. What is her name? Her company is called Love Corkscrew, and you can find her online. I think there's some marketing material out there, but I can't remember her name. Do you, Greg? Do you remember
No,
her
I
name?
don't.
Steve,
In the meantime, let's go Knicks. Let's go Knicks.
Okay, let's go Nick.
You guys, I wanted to remind everybody to please vote. Vote. That is the most important thing that you guys can do. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But everybody, tell your friends, your family, you have to vote.
Amen.
Awesome. And if you guys got the blast that came out, there are a number of bits going on. Please check them out, register. Let's support our communities. Let's make sure they have full houses so that they can disseminate out their information. So thank you,
Michelle
guys.
Cawley. That's next week. Michelle
Oh,
Cawley.
there you go. Yeah, Michelle Cawley. All right. So you guys go on. Her business is called Love Corkscrew, and she has all kinds of spirits, and she's actually selling in Walmart and Target and some other big box stores. So we want to celebrate her for what she's doing. So we'll see you guys all next week. I am going to stop recording. So of course, those want to